Welcome to the Pacey Performance Podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Head Physiotherapist at the Huddersfield Giants in Super League, Dave O'Sullivan. Hi guys, welcome to the Pacey Performance Podcast. Thanks for checking it out. Today I have a guest which is slightly closer to home than my regular guests. Actually lives in Huddersfield, about 2 miles from me. So it's Dave O'Sullivan, who is the head physiotherapist at the Huddersfield Giants and owner of Pro Sport Physiotherapy. Today I chat to Dave about his integration of physiotherapists and strength and conditioning coaches, how he measures success as a physio, his principles as a practitioner, and what makes him and his clinics, Pro Sport Physiotherapy, different to any other clinics in the UK. So I've got first-hand experience of what a good guy Dave is and what a great practitioner he is, and I know he's valued very much down at the Giants. Just before we get going, I just want to let you know of the online conference that Strength and Conditioning Education are bringing. It's on the 25th to 29th of March, and it's an online conference so you can sit in the comfort of your own home and watch some great guys from around the world speak on different topics. You'll also get recordings of all the speakers, so if you can't check it out when it's actually live, you can come back at a later date and check it out then. Guests for the conference include Mike Boyle, Nick Winkelman, Ron McKeefrey, Stuart Yule, David Joyce, Ian Piper, Alan Ruddock, you name it, the guys are involved. So that's from the 25th to 29th of March, and it's the meeting of the minds. I've put a link on paceyperformance.co.uk, so give that a click and you can get all the information through there. But just before we get on to the chat with Dave, if you want to keep up to date with everything that's going on the podcast, you can follow me on Twitter at PaceyPerform. You can also shoot over to paceyperformance.co.uk and you can check out all the previous episodes on there. You can subscribe on iTunes and YouTube as well. And here is the chat with Dave. Hi guys, welcome to the Pacey Performance Podcast. Really excited to get Dave O'Sullivan on the phone today. So we've got Dave, who is the head physiotherapist for the Huddersfield Giants in Super League. So I just want to get Dave to do a little bit of bio on himself, so his education, his background, and what you're currently doing. So welcome to the podcast, Dave.
Cheers, Rob. So obviously the head physio for Huddersfield Giants at the moment. About 7 years ago, got my first job in sports, working with Leeds, Carnegie and Leeds Rhinos, and then quickly moved over to Leeds Rhinos Rugby League for probably the best part of 4 years, really. And then had a short stint over in Rugby Union with Munster in Ireland, and then came back again for family reasons to the UK. With the Giants, which actually that's where I live. We lived in Huddersfield now for nearly 10 years. So my wife and two daughters were born here as well. So it was kind of natural to come back to Huddersfield really, and it just happened that the Giants job came up at the time.
Cool. So you've got a business as well on the side, Pro Sport Physiotherapy. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the clinic's Pro Sport Physiotherapy, and that kind of originated with Myron Jones, who's a physiotherapist with Essendon over in Australia now. Myself, him, and Martin Higgins, who at the time was Bradford Bulls physio. We wanted to set up some, a private clinic basically. So we all kind of came together and formed Pro Sport Physiotherapy, which obviously we were all working in professional sport at the time, so that's obviously where the name came from, and it's grown. Now we've got a clinic in York and Leeds, and my own clinics in Huddersfield now at the moment, and just trying to drive that really and make sure that our values come across in the clinic, so that private patients and clients can essentially access the same quality of treatment that we give our professional athletes on a daily basis. Really make sure that level of care transferred over to the private setting.
Mm-hmm. So who's the guy in Australia?
Myron Jones.
And he's with Essendon.
He's Essendon, yeah, AFL now. So he moved over there probably the same time as I moved over to Ireland at Munster, and then Martin was in stayed in the UK. So he's kind of looking after the York and the Leeds clinics, and I kept hold of the Huddersfield clinics. That's kind of where I was mainly based anyway. So
cool. And so you've got an MSc in strength and conditioning.
Yeah. Just finished that
on the side.
This year. Yeah, it was quite stressful last year. Finishing that. I done that 3 years. Distance learning at St Mary's University, which obviously you know well. That was good. Quite a lot of work, and kind of really made me probably better critique and evidence, really, more than anything, if I'm being honest. And just think about things a little bit more, and probably understand research papers a little bit better. That's probably the main thing I got out of that master's, if I'm being honest. But yeah, it was definitely a worthwhile experience. But glad it's done now, if I'm being honest. But I won't be too quick to do a PhD or anything like that.
So why strength and conditioning and not physiotherapy as a master's?
Well, I see them as one, basically. It's the body, the human body, if I'm being honest. It's all the same stuff, how people are moving. Just because you have a weight on your back or in your hand, it doesn't change anything. And I take a lot of students, and that's one thing that people struggle is when I bring them into the gym. Physios get a little bit mesmerized, whereas actually you're looking at the exact same stuff. Hip flexion, knee flexion, hip extension, knee extension. Just because there's a weight there, like the biomechanics and how people move, they're the exact same as has to happen when we're walking, really. So physios tend to, they think they're experts at gait, and then just because one leg's not going in front of the other, all of a sudden we kind of get a little bit confused. So you just kind of need to just take a step back, really, and appreciate that essentially it's the one thing. So obviously and then going back to your original point, you can do all the treatment you want on the physio bed and all the low level exercises, but if the lads go back into the gym and they're lifting incorrectly, or they're not using what you've been doing in the physio room or on the bed, then it's absolutely pointless. And I've got a phrase that I like to say is move well in the gym, move well on the field. And I think a lot of our injuries happen on the field as a result of what they're doing in the gym, if I'm being honest. And they get stuck in these patterns that essentially predispose them to injuries, in my opinion. So it's absolutely vital, really, that we understand and appreciate movement in the gym just as much as on the bed and looking at them walking. No,
that's interesting. So just touching on the kind of the crossover between the two, how do you integrate the strength and conditioning with the guys at the Giants and your team of physios as well?
Yeah, I've always been really lucky to work with good conditioners, really, who, I appreciate what the S&C need to do, and I appreciate what their job role is, and they're under pressure, by head coaches just as much as I am. And so I've been lucky to work with some really good ones, really, and, they appreciate my knowledge of S&C just as much as I appreciate theirs. And I think it's, I'll never pull someone from anything. I think there's always something else they can be doing. So, if somebody can't do, a deadlift or something, there's something else that they definitely can be doing. So I'll always give them other options. I won't just say you can't do this or that. So I think that works really well in terms of the relationship building. And then obviously, we do have our disagreements now and again, but the majority of it, they listen to my advice and they'll take it on board, because at the end of the day, if the players aren't on the field, then that's no good to anyone. So we're all working towards the same goals, really, and I think that's pretty important to recognise.
When I put the little discussion points together, it made me think of an article that Jason Webber did. And I've just got it up on the screen here. Physiotherapists and S&C integration, is it possible? And the first line is the S&C coach saying, fucking physio, stop me doing deadlifts with so-and-so, and then vice versa, you fuck 'em, we fix 'em. So that's the kind of two ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But it sounds like sounds like you've got a decent mix of the Giants, which
we have that joke all the time. Don't worry, don't worry about that. But no, like, and to be honest, I think they need to lift well. I think they need to lift heavy, and they need to be able to withstand a lot of force going through their bodies, really. So, I think it's absolutely massive, and I think a good S&C coach is worth his or her weight in gold, really. And if you don't have a good S&C coach, that's going to cause injuries, So they've got a massive part to play in injury prevention. So, it is all one. And I think it's insecurity on the physio part. Because as I said, once they step in the gym, it's a little bit unknown. And when people go to their comfort zone, they get a bit defensive naturally. That people don't like change. That's everybody. That's not just physio and S&C. So it's just getting comfortable with each other, really, and not getting defensive and actually listening, and listening to what you're trying to achieve and what they're trying to achieve. And, ultimately you're trying to get the same to the same endpoint. Mm.
So you've got an S&C who is obviously working, doing his thing, and he kind of measures his success with stuff that happens in the gym, and obviously that transference onto the pitch. They can measure that success with the technical coaches to say he can do blah, blah, blah better on the pitch. But how do you, as a physio, measure your success? Because it seems that it's not just getting, we aren't getting injuries at the moment. It's bigger than that. It's because of that crossover that you've got.
Yeah, I think personally, I don't like soft tissue injuries. I take them personally if someone gets them. So we keep pretty stringent injury stats, and not only that, but how many days players have missed training. So obviously, especially working in rugby, a lot of players, will miss training days, but they mightn't necessarily miss games. So we track that quite heavily, and we do our movement screens. We might do them 4 times a year. We do our pre-training markers every day, and just making sure they're moving well, really. And I get a lot of satisfaction from going into the gym and seeing them lift well. If I'm being honest, that's to me that's good. When they're out in the field, we do absolutely loads of deceleration work with them. And when I see players decelerating well in on pause sessions and stuff, I get great satisfaction, knowing that we've had a big part of that and actually been able to execute a pass well because they've been able to decelerate. Now, the coach thinks, oh God, they're, why you tell them to go on their heels or towards their rear foot, but, and they don't understand that. And, all you're trying to do is get them to load their hips in the exact same position that they want when they're doing contact. So, stuff like that, I think is a big part of physio that you can get a lot out of in other areas, really. And in terms of objective stuff, for physios, it's just, I suppose your days missed, your training days missed. In Super League, we get the University of Bolt to measure all our injury rates and stats. So we have to record everything, every day missed and stuff like that. So at the end of the year, you get a ladder of where you are compared to the rest of the Super League, and so that's quite nice when you see that you're up at the top there or near the top. So
is that made public?
No, just the CEO gets it, and we get a copy, and the head coach gets it. But the last 2 seasons with the Giants, we've been in the top 3, really, luckily. And, we've touched wood, as I said, and don't get me wrong, I'm not that naive, in Super League, you can have one game, you can lose 3 or 4 players for 6 months. It looks a lot got to do with it. It's not, it's not just, the staff. I wish it was all us, but, I'm not that stupid to realise that it is.
So you mentioned daily markers that you look for.
Yeah.
Do you want to just talk us through what you're doing and why you're doing it?
Yeah. So we do. It probably. I've got a big belief that you have to do the basics, extraordinary, basically, and I think sports medicine and sports science these days, all these gadgets coming out, it's actually dangerous because you get sidetracked from what actually matters most. And I keep it real simple. We still do our ankle mobility every morning. So, your bog standard knee to wall test, which I think majority of people would do now. We do the adductor squeeze at 45 degrees. With a blood pressure cuff, and we look at shoulder internal rotation, and we look at the toe touch test off a box. So I don't like the sit and reach. I like them to be standing because I think it loads the lumbar spine a little bit better. So a lot of our boys, they'll have disc issues in their lower backs, just because of the nature of the sport and stuff. So when you're standing and you do a toe touch, I think that gives you a little bit more load on the lumbar spine versus when you're seated, it's a little bit more of an unloaded test. So that tends to flag up better for me in terms of players, whose discs are maybe getting a little bit grumbly that you may miss with a sit and reach. And that's something I wanted to look at some stage was, if there was any differences between a sit and reach and a standing toe touch test.
It's a PhD, really. Dave, that.
Yeah, not for a while. a few things to do before that, but yeah, exactly. And we do our wellness questionnaires, and then the S&C will do the hydration and the weight and stuff like that. So as I said, it's the 4 markers. I've wanted to put in a few different ones, but the problem is you're not really going to know what those markers mean probably for a year or two until you start looking at the stuff. So, I kind of stayed with the 4 that I've done since I went to the Giants, really, just to, and I think they hit pretty much, I'd say 80% of it. I think there's a couple of things that they don't get, but I think for the majority of it, they'll catch a lot of issues. And as I said, once you get used to your players and you know them, and if one player is down, that's usually not down, and that's alarm bells to you. Whereas some players are constantly down, so it's just a case of getting to know your players as well, I think.
Mm-hmm. Just moving on a little bit, I want to touch on the Pro Sport Physiotherapy. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the tagline is "We think differently." So is that right?
Yeah, yes.
Good research. So, what do you want to talk to us about? What makes you different from other clinics?
Yeah, just the whole body approach, really. I suppose what's the easiest way to explain it so people understand is, I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule, and I think that, if you have an injury, treating that, the side of the pain really is going to give you about a 20% improvement, and that 80% of the issues, I'm obviously modifying the 80-20 rule a little bit here, but 80% of your success is going to be actually from different parts of the body. And a lot of people, where the side of pain is, that's only the symptom. And, we try to look at the whole body and, starting at the foot right up to the pelvis, right up to the jaw. And, I think especially in the last kind of year, really, I've just realised the importance of the jaw to how the body moves, and especially in rugby with the amount of impacts that our players take on the jaw and the head, and the effect that can have, it's absolutely massive. So at Pro Sport, when a client comes in, we look at a move, and we'll do the tests that we use, and then but always in the back of our minds, we're always asking why. You got knee pain, why is your glute weak? So we're not just going to say, okay, you need to do glute exercises. Well, why is your glute not firing? You know what I mean? Why is that glute not loading as your foot hits the floor? So it's always going one step further. So, and I think that's a lot of physios, we're taught kind of cookbook recipes now. You go on the internet, you go on knee pain, hip exercise, and I've been there, and 5 years ago I was giving hip exercises and people weren't getting better with knee pain, and but it worked really well for other people. So, and that it's kind of just going a bit beyond that, really. So always asking why till you get to the true cause, really. And, you can continue to ask why pretty much for every answer that you get from the previous answer, if that makes sense. So, and that's kind of the mindset that we're training our clinicians to be, really, is, getting right down to the true cause. And in some cases, that's not motor control. It's actually your limbic system. So, your emotions and stuff like that. And without getting too deep in a little bit left field on it. And, the pelvic floor is a massive issue for a lot of people. And, there's research that suggests that, if, depression and anxiety and stuff like that, that can affect your pelvic floor. So sometimes the pain isn't, led by physical issues, and we need to appreciate that as well. And and I'm not silly enough to think that we can fix everybody. We can fix a lot of people, but there will always be one or two that that need referring out. And I suppose in a nutshell, that's probably why we like to think that we do think differently, and that we'll always strive to get to the true cause of the problem. And if we think that we don't have the tools to fix it, then we know the people that can. And so we're and we're not there yet by any means, but we're getting there. And I'm really excited for the next this 2015. We've come in contact with some really good clinicians that think along our lines, other healthcare professionals that we think can really complement what we're doing, and I'm trying to bring that into the Giants as well at the moment.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great. So you do a lot of work with runners as well. Do you want to just talk to us about why you've kind of focused on that demographic and their needs and why really?
Yeah. Well, as I said, once Pro Sport Physio was formed, our first clinic in Huddersfield was above up and running, a running shop. So that's obviously where I started working above the running shop, and that's kind of where our first clientele came from, really, where naturally the lads in up and running would refer people up to us. And then runners, they're worse than rugby league players, really, and rugby union players, in that they're absolutely obsessed with their sport. So if they can't run, that's a massive issue in their life. So if you can fix a runner that's had a particularly bad injury, then word of mouth will spread quite easily, really. And so I've been lucky to almost accidentally fall into that category, to be honest, where I've been lucky to fix a few runners, and then word of mouth spread, and probably 90% of my private clients are runners now. Just off the back of that. So there was no, it was just an accident, to be honest, how we got into it.
So there's obviously plenty of people to fix who are runners. So what are the reasons behind that from your experience?
I think a lot of it is their bodies just aren't set up well enough to cope with the demands of running. And essentially, if you're running on concrete, that's a lot of stress going through your body. If your body's not primed to cope with it, and a lot of people don't move well in this day and age. For whatever reason, I've got my theories on it. And if your body's not moving well enough, then eventually the compensations will come somewhere else in the body. And runners are like everybody else. The training load's a big one as well, the mileage and what have you. But at the end of the day, I think it just comes down to how well they move. And running shoes and stuff like that's another topic that that you could go into. And I'm not a big fan of that. I think it's a little bit of a scapegoat, the running shoes. I think for some people that they're important, but for 90% of people, they can cope with a neutral shoe once their body can cope with its own body weight, really. And a lot of the stuff we do is just teaching people to control and decelerate their own body weight. It's nothing. There's no hocus pocus there or anything like that. It's controlling your own body weight, essentially being responsible for your own body weight. And I think most of the runners can't decelerate their own body well enough, which is ultimately why they get injured.
Mm-hmm. And from experience, you focus a lot on breathing. Do you want to just give us a little kind of insight into why you think breathing is such a crucial part of what you do?
Yeah, well, my PB Run Free kind of performance pyramid that I've come up with, and where my head's at the moment in terms of how to progress an athlete is the diaphragm and airway positions, the ground floor foundation, if you will. And why that's important is a lot of people kind of look at the anterior tilt to the pelvis, and they'll blame, you're in anterior tilt and et cetera, et cetera. But I actually think if you look further up, it's actually the rib cage that's in the wrong position. And if you look at the rib cage and pelvis move, once the rib cage goes up, that drives the pelvis into anterior tilt. So, it goes back to asking, why is the pelvis in anterior tilt? And then if we track it back to the rib cage, then we can go, well, what's causing the rib cage to be like that? And then that goes back to breathing. Now, a lot of people, and again, it goes back to these kind of cookbooks, a lot of, breathing's quite fashionable at the moment, isn't it? Everybody's working on it. It's the answer to everybody's prayers. Oh, I've got knee pain. Oh, you need to work your breathing pattern. I've got shoulder pain. It's your breathing. But everybody seems to be focusing on this belly breathing, and getting people diaphragmatic breathing, whereas actually, I think they're missing the point, if I'm being honest, in that it's not really about getting the air in, it's getting the air out. That's the problem. And if you look at the rib cage in an anterior tilted pelvis, it's stuck up. So if you lie on your back, chances are with your legs straight, there's going to be a big arch in your back. And that couples with inspiration, so inhaling. So your rib cage pops up when you inhale, which, in my opinion, that's where everybody's stuck, is the inhalation phase of respiration. So when the rib cage pops up, your lower abdominals are long, your hamstrings are long, and your glutes are long. And they're the three key muscles, you guys strength and conditioning coaches, they're your holy grail almost, aren't they? That you want to get strong. But actually, it's not the glutes, it's not the hamstrings, it's not the asphalt. It's just that they're in the fire because they're stuck long and tight. And that's a concept I think a lot of people need to get their head around, as well as there's short and tight and there's long and tight muscles. And those muscles are long and tight because the rib cage is in the wrong position. Okay, so when we exhale, our rib cage comes down. And if you exhale, and ideally you want to be exhaling, my kind of rule, and I teach my clients, is inhale for 2 seconds, exhale for a full 6 seconds. And when you inhale for a full 6 seconds, you should be able to feel your lower abdominals tighten. And I've got my diaphragm self-test goes through all that on PB Run Free if anyone wants to try it. But when you exhale for 6 seconds, you should automatically feel your abdominals contract. Okay, when that happens, you'll also get out of the anterior tilt. Your glutes will shorten and your hamstrings will shorten. All right, so if we exhale, then essentially doesn't that solve all your problems? We get your glutes in the right position to fire properly, and then we get your hamstrings in the right position to contract properly. So, and then also the lower abdominals can actually fire a little bit better as well, because they're not long and tight anymore. They're actually able to contract properly. So that's why it's so important, in my opinion, is if you're not breathing properly, then all the physical stuff then becomes a problem. And that goes back to the Pro Sport Physio kind of we think differently approaches. Is it actually the glutes not firing, or is it because you're not breathing properly? And then if we look at why you're not breathing properly, were you stressed the last couple of days? You know what I mean? And like chest infections are massive for runners. And that's an article I'm going to write for Athletics Weekly soon, is, the amount of people that come to see me with where their backs go, and I don't like that term, but, most people can relate to that. And, oh, my back just went. And I'll always ask, oh, did you have a chest infection? Did you have a cold? Something like that previously? And a lot of them will have had an issue, either a chest infection or something like that, in the few months leading up to it. And I actually have a bit of a cough. The one I was doing some videoing for PB Run Free yesterday, and it's probably coming out now. I'm mouth breathing at the moment, so every couple of sentences you could hear me in the mic going, and when you breathe in through your mouth, just stand up, take a breath in through your mouth, have a feel of what your rib cage does. That rib cage is popping up, then it's going up further and further. Your abs are slowly getting longer, your hamstrings are getting longer, your glutes are getting longer, and all of a sudden you're in that anterior tilted position, and then you're going in, you're lifting, okay, you want to get strength, okay, so what do we do then notoriously is we arch our back a little bit more, which then further lengthens our abs, further lengthens our hamstrings, further lengthens our glutes. And then you kind of get that spiral of events that come on after that. So, and that goes right back to the motor control system and the limbic, the emotional stuff as well. And when people are anxious and nervous, especially before games, and I've worked with breathing coaches, consultants with a couple of players that got anxious, before games and stuff like that. And it's not just the general public that get nerves and anxiety, sports people as well. And a lot of them will hide it, to be honest. And, that breathing can actually drive a lot of problems, on the physical side as well, like such as hamstring tears. I could clinically reason in my head why that hamstring overstretched or over-lengthened because of where the ribcage was. And, sorry, I've gone on a little bit there, but that's essentially why I think the breathing is so important. But it's not your traditional breathing. It's actually we're not exhaling correctly, if that makes sense, and where the airway is as well, and that kind of goes back up to the jaw position as well. The jaw needs to be in the correct position, and the hyoid as well up in the throat. So that's why I put diaphragm in airway position as opposed to, just breathing, because it's just, there's a lot more there in breathing than just the diaphragm. There's quite a few other things that have to fire.
Yeah, you mentioned the jaw. I know a couple of footballers that have been trekking all over the country and going abroad for Mouthpieces.
Yeah.
So do you want to give us your take on that? I know I don't know if it's a new thing, or is it something that's just come in lately, or has it been going for years, or what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's getting more popular. I think Under Armour approached us at the start of the year, but it's like everything in rugby league, money comes, at the end of the day is an issue. Excuse me. But I think I can definitely reason why, they'd be effective. But I think there's a lot more than the jaw. I think when people fit the mouth guards, I think your pelvis and your foot has to be neutral as well. And I think they're almost, those three, the pelvis, the foot, and the jaw need to be aligned, essentially. A lot of people talk to cranial bones as well, which is a bit more of a specialist area. But the jaw is absolutely massive. The masseters, one of the strongest muscles in the body. And I had a player the other day who was sprinting, and he just felt a little bit, he didn't have that top end speed, fine accelerating. And then when he got top end and he's grinding his teeth, so subconsciously he's trying to get stability for an issue somewhere else in the body, and we were able to track that right back to his glute max wasn't quite as receptive, when we tested that, and we've had to do a little bit of work on his jaw, and like the jaw motion has to couple with every phase of gait. So when you push off your right foot over to your left foot, your jaw needs to go left. And when you push off your left foot going to your right, your jaw actually moves right. So your jaw is just like, every other joint in your body, and we need to treat it as one. And same thing again, I've had issues with players where they couldn't rotate to the left. And, their pterygoid on the right side was tight, which meant their jaw couldn't translate to the left. So, and when your jaw is not working properly, I always kind of, explain to clients like it's a red light. So your nervous system has a red light there. So you guys as strength and conditioning coaches, if you want that PB in a 1 rep max, you need all green lights on. So you need everything to be firing on that particular day in order to get the lifts right. And, if something's out of alignment, that's essentially why players, athletes fail. That's why they can't hit that extra 1 or 2 kg on the plate, because their nervous system stopping them. It's nothing else, and we've heard these stories about, the absolute max strength kind of theories as well. And, you hear these people of lifting cars off babies and stuff like that. So we can all do it, but it's just the nervous system sends a red light. And I think the jaw is a big one to send that red light a lot. That, and again, it's like everything as physios, we're not trained in the jaw. It's a specialist area, and I'm slowly getting more comfortable with it now, and I can see the impact on the whole body, luckily. But it's taken me a few years to be where I'm at now, and again, it goes into that the unknown, where you're not really sure about it. It's change, and people get a little bit defensive. But once you understand it, it's massive, and we're working quite closely with a few dentists at the moment as well now, and they've just blown our minds in terms of the teeth as well, and the effect that the teeth can have on the jaw, which can have on performance. And you hear these. I think Van Persie or someone had his wisdom tooth taken out for a hamstring and stuff like that. And whereas actually, when you look at the jaw, the effect that that's had on the jaw position, right down the fascial chain, and you go into your anatomy trains, Tom Myers stuff, which a lot of S&C coaches are a little bit more comfortable discussing that. You can actually reason why that tooth caused a hamstring injury. And, it's not actually a medical mystery once you can understand mechanics and you understand the nervous system and you understand the body really, No,
that's really interesting. You mentioned it a couple of times, just to round up, because I've kept you for just over half an hour, but PB Run Free, do you want to just give us a bit of a plug for PB Run Free? What's it about and where can people check it? Where can people check it out?
So, the website's pbrunfree.com. And it's basically the online resource for Pro Sport Physiotherapy kind of running department, if you will, really. And I've wrote a lot of articles for Athletics Weekly in the last kind of 4 or 5 years, so just somewhere nice to put all my stuff really, and put a lot of this information out there really. And I get a lot of emails because of the articles I read. Wrote on Athletics Weekly from kind of runners from all parts of the country, really, in the UK and even some in Ireland, that they're really struggling with issues, and it's just making people aware that there is help out there and you can sort issues. So if you're struggling, you can't get this calf keeps tearing or this calf keeps tightening when you're running. There is help out there, and just trying to educate people really. And running it's not that complicated in that it's pretty linear. And if we, at the end of the day, if we control your body weight as your foot hits the floor, get all your elastic bands, as I call them, loading, taking up the slack. So basically then to transfer the energy through to the fascial systems, and then we explode as the foot pushes off. If we can do that, then, you're going to be a lot more efficient. You're going to be using elastic energy versus using muscles to propel you off. So, just try to educate people on that really, and show how the body works, and how easy it is once you get told it, or you understand it, that actually that calf pain could be coming from somewhere else in the body. And don't give up running just because the glute exercises didn't help. You know what I mean? So that's what that was all about. And we've set up like a little inner circle as well, where basically all our online exercises that we use at Pro Sport Physio, so I'll put them all into a little membership website as well. It's only a tenner a month or something at the moment, and that's basically got all the kind of my performance pyramid. So again, the exercises that we use for the diaphragm and airway, and then going right up, going into the kind of the more isometric-y stuff, and then going into conscious gait recruitment, and then subconscious gait ultimately, that's where we want the runners to be. The top of the list is being able to load the muscles without having to think about it. And that's the same in rugby as well. That's where I need to get players so that they can activate the glute without to physically think about it. And it happens on demand, in the various situations, when my torso is going right, where my torso is going left, and my head's going in the opposite direction, because very often they'll end up in those positions.
No, that's interesting. So you've got a couple of things coming up over the next couple of months, things that have been released on PB Run Free.
Yeah, so I mean, to be honest, it's just getting going really. The website pbrunfree.com, and then there's pbrunfree innercircle.info, which is essentially the inner circle. So just launched that really, and as I said, although it's aimed at runners, just because of that's the kind of clientele we focus on. All the exercises and stuff like that, you can, they're the exact same ones I use for rugby and multitude sports, and all the exercises. It goes back to what I said at the start. It's just about getting the body moving well, So those there for everyone. And we just recorded our high performance program as well, which I'm just testing that on a few high level athletes at the moment. So there's various athletes actually trialing it, and that's going to be released in I'd say in 2 or 3 months really. And that's kind of a 6-week program where I've sat there, and that's for healthy individuals. So I've kind of sat down and answered the question, right, if I had 6 weeks with an athlete and I had 15 minutes a day with them before they've done their sport, what would I do progressively in the 6 weeks? And I've kind of answered that question on paper. It's 42 days of progressions really, and I take people through the performance pyramid of the first weeks of diaphragm and airway. Really, it's a bit of a cheesy word, but really trying to bulletproof your body really, bulletproof that foundation of the diaphragm, bulletproof the next layer, the electricity to key muscles, that's what I call it, and then bulletproofing the rest of them so that when your foot hits the floor, every joint, every muscle, they're all working as one, helping you to load and explode essentially. So that's coming up. I'd say 2 or 3 months, but yeah, just visit the site and sign up to the mailing list, and I'll let you know. As I said, might have a chat about that sometime. Yeah,
definitely get you on again when it's all up and running. We'll have a chat about it.
Spot on.
So where else can people get in touch with you? So have you got Twitter, Facebook, all that kind of thing?
Yeah, I can't remember my Twitter name if I'm being honest. I think it's Davey O'Sullivan, Davey O'Sullivan, I think it is. Or Pro Sport Physiotherapy, Huddersfield. My clinic website's physiohuddersfield.co.uk. But yeah, I mean, if you get me at pbrunfree.com anyways, my email address is dave@prosportphysiotherapy.co.uk. So if anyone's any questions about that, I'd be more than happy to answer them there.
Cool. And all the links will be on your PB Run Free website anyway, won't they, for Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of thing?
Yeah. I think the Twitter for PB Run Free is PB Run Free @PB Run Free, and then the Facebook's PB Run Free. So
cool.
And they're pretty easy to find. Yeah.
No, that's cool. So it's coming up 40 minutes, Dave, and I'll let you go. But thanks very much for your time. It's been
pleasure.
Been very interesting, really interesting. So I will. I'll probably catch you at the clinic.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, mate. I
See you
will
later.
speak to you soon, mate. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out the Pacey Performance Podcast. I'd really encourage you to check out Dave's website and see what kind of stuff he's got going on. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pacey Performance Podcast on iTunes and YouTube, and you can keep up to date with everything that's going on the podcast at paceyperformance.co.uk, and follow me on Twitter @paceyperform. And I will see you in the next episode.